Cancer entered Roger Holzberg's vocabulary at a young age. His cousin grew up just down the street, and the two were inseparable until an aggressive form of pediatric kidney cancer stopped the duo in their tracks. At age 14, Holzberg watched his best friend fight for 8 months until he had nothing left to give.
About a decade after that, my parents were divorced. My mom was terminal with breast cancer. And as the oldest kid, I had to make her end-of-life decisions at a time when no one should have to make those decisions. My dad, who was a physician at that point, said, "So now you're going to go into med school and help fix this cancer problem, right?" To which I said, "I'm going to be as far away from med school as I possibly can be. I'm going to art school."
Holzberg dove headfirst into his passion and landed with a position as a creative director and vice president at Walt Disney Imagineering. Just when he thought he had the rest of his life figured out, the enemy Holzberg had worked so hard to distance himself from barged right back into his life. Despite his strict diet and exercise regimen, Holzberg had begun gaining weight and feeling more lethargic.
I called my physician the next day. On the eve of my 50th birthday, I heard those 3 words that 1 in 2 American men and 1 in 3 American women hear in their lifetime: "You have cancer." The good news is it was an early diagnosis, stage 1, completely still encapsulated, and I knew very little about healthcare at that point. My dad came back into my life and said, "So your prognosis looks really good. You ought to do some volunteering."
Holzberg pulled together a group of his Imagineer co-workers, and as he successfully fought his own thyroid cancer, the team adapted some favorite Disney attractions for Children's Hospital of Orange County.
Which included adapting one of our attractions called Turtle Talk with Crush to Children's Hospital of Orange County. And suddenly I met child life specialists and I saw immersive distraction therapy work, and I got to help Crush the Turtle be more than just a goofball surfer dude, to be a comfort friend. I'd say that was the first time the light bulb went off, which was realized in the project we've just opened, where I went, why didn't I have stuff like this when I was in adult treatment?
Holzberg had spent his time in treatment either staring at a blank wall or watching the news from a TV in the corner of the room.
I remember sitting in a chair in a hospital going, my healing place is the ocean. If I could be in Malibu, if I could be out the water and there was a dolphin near me, I'm an ocean swimmer, right? That would be my healing place. And I went, wait a second, you work for Walt Disney Imagineering. Your job is putting people in virtual places. You could have been there in every way, but physically. What would that have meant?
These realizations led Holzberg to finally jump into the healthcare space. He co-founded Reimagine Well, a company that uses technology to create immersive healing programs. Just around the corner at City of Hope, Orange County, Annette Walker was having the same thoughts. Known in the healthcare industry as a visionary and innovator, Walker had begun to set her sights on the part of care that's often overlooked, the patient experience.
There's a quote that we kind of like to incorporate into our ethos, that there's no profit in healing the body if in the process you destroy the soul.
Walker is the president of City of Hope, Orange County, a comprehensive cancer center. Though the organization isn't faith-based, they've realized that their patients are made up of mind, body, and spirit, which means to have the highest potential for healing, Walker believes they need to address all 3 factors. So when it came time to design the program's spiritual care center, a vague, non-denominational room wasn't going to cut it.
Either they are so generic, they're not sacred enough or personal enough to the person who needs them, or they really are dedicated to one denomination, one faith tradition, and the others are excluded. So I think that our attempts to meet the needs of every patient, we would do the same thing in other aspects of their care. This is one aspect of your care. For instance, if you had cancer, you might need nutritional counseling, or you might need acupuncture, or you might need something else. And in all cases, that care is personalized to you. This is no different. This is our ability to personalize a spiritual care to the individual's needs.
However, the Orange County community has 5 primary religions, as well as groups that believe more in spirituality than one specific faith. As you can imagine, Walker didn't have the space for 7 separate rooms.
So our dilemma was, wow, we have 5 primary religions in Orange County, as well as people who are not religious but are spiritual and have other needs. How do we address all these populations? And the idea was presented by our chief operating officer. Hey, why don't we try immersive reality? And it was like, oh my God, we're so good technically. Could we use technology on the softest part of our services?
And that's when they brought in Holzberg. He had already been using immersive technology at the Children's Hospital after an oncologist had challenged him to find a way of helping the kids who had just been diagnosed with cancer.
And he said, my pediatric patients, they get diagnosed with cancer. They immediately feel isolated, depressed, withdrawn. And those 3 things in concert with chemotherapy is just not good. So how do we change the chemotherapy experience? And I said, can I go out with a survey to your patients? And he said, well, you're not a doctor. What kind of survey do you want to send to my patients? I said, basically one question. If you could get your treatment anywhere in the universe and there were no rules, what special place would help heal you? In the 15 years we've been asking kids and adolescent young adult cancer patients what special place would help heal them, never once has one of them come back and said, that would be a hospital.
So in the same way that he surveyed pediatric patients, Holzberg's first step for City of Hope's new spiritual center was to survey the people in Orange County.
My job is never to tell a patient or a clinician what is right and healing for their population. It's to ask them what is healing for their population and then get that for them. We went out to patients and families, and we went out to faith leaders with a very similar question to what we asked our pediatric patients. But it wasn't about your healing place. It was about your family coming together in a sacred healing place. And so that's what gave us the answers for the 5 faith themes and the 2 nature themes.
The team settled on creating scenes depicting a chapel, mandir, mosque, synagogue, temple, an alpine forest, and the beach. Holzberg's team had gone back and forth on how immersive they wanted the experience to be.
We concepted a number of different approaches. One of them was very immersive, meaning the people in the room were surrounded by imagery. Another one is what we wound up with, which is a very large screen with what then we call alcoves, all of which contain different media in different forms.
The decision ultimately came down to one factor that the theme park industry refers to as the barf quotient.
I've been a part of tuning the profiles of some extreme rides before. And when people get nauseous is a thing that you've got to really dial down, because in the ride theme park world, you don't want to be washing out ride vehicles every 4 minutes. But also in the hospital world, you've got different sets of challenges. You've got patients who might have some loss of equilibrium, might have some nausea from medication, and we wanted to make sure we didn't overwhelm them.
On top of that, the team needed to make sure that the experience wasn't just cool, but felt sacred.
Roger will tell you that we're pretty nitpicky about that's not quite right. We have to adjust it. So we're kind of fanatically possessed with making it as real and as awesome as we could. Now, there's no doubt that right now, using immersive reality in this situation, people, just the fact that we used it, will think it's cool. But it wasn't meant to be cool. It was meant to be sacred.
They had community leaders advising on all of the details, and even went as far as to create their own stained glass when they couldn't find any that perfectly fit the comforting environment they were aiming for.
It looks like it could be made into original stained glass window. It's a beautiful piece of art. But when you go in the room, it does look like we picked a stained glass from somewhere and put it there. But that was some of the nuances of the perfection that we were going for, that, there's a lot of images of Christ that could be distressing during this time. We wanted the comforting images of Christ.
City of Hope recently unveiled this space after 2 years of development, and patients will be able to fully utilize the center in December.
The room will be open 24/7. And on the outside of the room, it'll show you the scene that is currently on. But as soon as you walk in, if there's no one else in the room, you just go push a button and you pick the one you want, and it'll stay on for 15 minutes. The other thing that's very cool is if you were a patient, and say we were having a service in there, if you're a patient and you're confined to your bed, you can turn it on from your room and watch it.
Now that Walker and Holzberg have reimagined how spiritual centers can look, they hope more programs will adopt this immersive experience to enhance their patients' quality of care.
Someone asked me that, do you think this will change the industry? And I think it will. I do. I think people will say, wow, we just didn't think of doing it. It wasn't that they were trying to be thoughtless or exclusionary. I just didn't think they thought of it. And also, the technology is relatively new. It's immersive reality has been used in other cases, like Roger has used it in children's hospitals for immersive experiences for kids. I went to the Sphere this weekend and saw a concert. It's unbelievable. And so what you're seeing is technology is helping healthcare in a different way. This won't be the only way it does, but I do believe it's the first time it's been used in this particular circumstances in healthcare.
You can find more information about Annette Walker, Roger Holzberg, and all of our guests on our website, ingoodhealthpodcast.org. For more behind the scenes, follow In Good Health on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farah. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. I'm Elizabeth Westfield.